The Labour Member of Parliament for Ilford North is Wes Streeting, and of course he's Shadow Secretary of State for Health and Social Care. And I think many would argue, actually, one of Labour's most effective media performers. Today, he was visiting a centre in Bristol, and this is what happened.
Wes Streeting, shame on you! Wes Streeting, you can't hide, you're supporting genocide! Genocide supporter! Genocide supporter! Don't come here and pretend you care about social justice issues. You are supporting a genocide in Gaza. Palestinian civilians are being massacred. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Well, that is a little symptom of something that is happening on a broader scale. And I can't get involved with details as there are a series of elections going on right now. But it would seem that there are now people prepared to stand who really want for their vote to be entirely on Muslim issues. In fact, a website launched this week just called Muslim Vote. You know, why we have to get together as a Muslim community. And of course, top of their list isn't the National Health Service, it isn't dentistry, it isn't the boats crossing the channel or anything like that. Top of their list is Gaza. And I think we're witnessing the beginning for the first time ever in this country, and you can see the website on your screen, putting Muslim issues at the forefront, a united force of 4 million of us acting in unison. This, folks, is the beginning of sectarian politics. We've never seen the like of it. Yes, of course, we've seen it in modern times in Northern Ireland. Thank goodness that has been quelled to a very large degree. This is the beginning, in my opinion, of sectarian politics in this country. I find it troubling. I find it worrying. And Wes Streeting, he may find it troubling and worrying because looking at his Ilford North constituency, at the time of the last census in 2021, nearly 25% of his constituency was Muslim. That figure will now be several points higher over the course of the last couple of years. And already somebody has come forward to say they will stand against Streeting in that constituency on a Muslim ticket. And I just wonder, is there time for these forces to gather ahead of the next general election? And if not ahead of the next general election, I'll be very surprised if that wasn't the case for the general election that followed. And I'm joined by Scarlett Maguire, former Labour advisor. Of course, it was, you look at other communities, you look at the Hindu vote, or you look at the Sikh vote, or the black vote, and it splits across political parties. It was very split, for example, on the Brexit vote. But up until this point, the Labour has had over 80% of the Muslim vote.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you're sort of scaring people. Actually,
I'm scared.
Well, I'm not. I'm not.
Really?
Look, no. So we've had the Women's Equality Party, right? Half the country are women. They have a website that is all about putting women's issues first. Do you mind? No. Is Labour frightened? No.
It went nowhere.
Right? It went nowhere. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. That's the truth of it. It's been coming. I think to start saying, oh dear, they're Muslims, it's all going to get, is just actually scaring people. I think it's really, really terrible, Nigel.
I'll tell you what scared me, Scarlett. Being in Bradford West a few years ago. I was in Bradford West a few years ago when there was a by-election. Do you remember? A traditionally safe Labour seat. And it was won by a politician from outside mainstream British political parties, campaigning solely, I won't mention his name, there are legal reasons why I can't mention his name right now.
Who's not a Muslim. Let's get this quite clear. The person who won in Bradford West and is standing somewhere else, right, trying to sow dissent is not a Muslim. Actually, if I was a Conservative, I'd be looking at you and saying, you're doing exactly the same. You're trying to lose the election for me.
He may not be a Muslim himself by birth, but he says he's a Muslim now. He says he's converted to the religion. He's married indeed to a Muslim. He has Muslim children. So, and he was exclusively courting the Muslim vote.
Yeah, I mean, this particular person, I think, has a lack of morals, shall we say?
Well,
but I don't think. I mean, I do not think it's frightening. I mean, I do think that Labour like the Conservatives, should not take anybody for granted and should not take any community for granted. And I think it's very important that they understand that the Muslims, many Muslims, were absolutely furious when Keir Starmer appeared to say it's fine for the Israelis to stop aid going into Gaza, right? It was a terrible mistake, and he's apologised for it. And
yes, I mean that's the point, isn't it? Is it a short-term political thing, or does it lead to something more significant? And my belief is it will lead to something more significant.
I know, but that's because that's what you want.
No, it's not what I want at all. No,
Nigel, you sow dissent. You sow dissent.
Well, I've been very good over the years at putting my finger on problems that have actually emerged. And I think we're going to see, not this election, but the next general election, from several inner-city constituencies, MPs there representing a particular religious viewpoint, as we've grown up with in Northern Ireland. I find that bad news. And I think it's a failure of integration. I think Labour's immigration policies, they've benefited short-term with the vote, but it's the lack of integration that's led to this.
Well, I mean, I think there is a lot of integration, right? And that's why I think, we've got... I mean, are you saying that the Muslim MPs are only about Muslims?
No, I'm not.
Right, I mean, I do remember when...
No, I'm not. And people like Khalid Mahmood are fighting very hard against this, I'm delighted to say. I just think there is a new development now in British politics.
No, well, I mean, I would say, if I was a Tory, that the new development was yours, and you're going to make sure they lose the election. I think you're much more dangerous.
There's nothing sectarian about me, I can promise you. Well, Scarlett, thank you. She's wrong, of course.
Actually, Nigel, I am right. And I do not sow dissent and fear.
In 5 years' time, we'll sit and have this conversation again. You see my point, Jacob, about this? My concern.
I see your point, and also your first point that we have had sectarian politics in the past, and it is dangerous that Northern Ireland's an example of this. Though actually we had sectarian politics in Glasgow and in Liverpool, and when the Conservatives won seats in Liverpool up until the 1970s, that was on essentially a sectarian vote, and that's gone out of politics, and that's a good thing. I hope Scarlett's right, that it turns out to be a flash in the pan, but I think we should take this very seriously.
We may even discuss this in a few weeks.